I finally got the message, and the message was, it falls on you. Nothing else outside of me matters. No part of my story, no matter how amazing or how challenging, mattered. It fell on me to either live or not, to thrive or suffer. We spend so much time surviving our way through life, and that's not the way it's meant to be. And I finally woke up and realized that.
With a storied career in entertainment, fashion, and wellness, Cyia was an original Pussycat doll for 12 years, in films including Charlie's Angels, a jewelry designer, a long-term meditation teacher, and much more. Her experiences have all resulted in her culminating a keen eye about people. With the lifelong gift of feeling and reading energy, of being seen herself, and of relating to people from all walks of life, Cyia's healing work and teachings are the coming together of each facet. Her work as a spiritual advisor, energy healer, medicine woman, and certified herbalist, speaker, teacher, and guide is unique, innovative, and experienced. Just like Cyia. Cyia and I have become friends, having met on Clubhouse, and have found beautiful synergies in our approach to life and shared profound conversations. In this episode, we talk about Cyia's incredible journey from becoming a multimillionaire by 24 and losing it all by 33 to her spiritual awakening, and how becoming a mother changed everything, to how spirituality guides her life. You're listening to Going Conscious, the podcast where we discover new ways to live a more conscious life of fulfillment and freedom. Each week, I speak with entrepreneurs, academics, and changemakers who have made big transformations, left unfulfilling lives behind, and found meaning in this new world where purpose drives success. Let's get inspired to live our unique journeys to the fullest. Let's explore the impact we want to make and deepen our understanding of ourselves, each other, and this beautiful world around us. Live your freedom. I'm your host, Nikki Trott. In this episode, we talk about how Cyia found her spirituality, how she realized everything fell on her to thrive, how to deepen your connection with your intuition, how energy dictates everything in our lives, how to ask for help, the danger of comparison, letting go of resentment, and how to honor your truth and soul. Now let's go to our conversation. Hi, Cyia. Welcome to Going Conscious.
Thank you, Nikki. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited to dive in with you and to find out more about your incredible journey. I would love to start by asking you how you have made your transition into your spiritual work, because you've been in many films as an actor. You were an original Pussycat Dolls girl for 12 years. You've done so much. And now you are pursuing this incredible spiritual work. And I would love to know about your journey towards that and how you made the transition.
I would love to tell you about it. It's definitely a big jump, isn't it? How do you get from there to here? So interestingly, I think that the spiritual work has always been there. I just didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to kind of channel it, use it, funnel it, express it. But I do believe, I think you've heard me say once or twice before, I have this very firm belief that we're all spiritual beings having this human experience. So the spiritual life is always in us. It's just about how we access it. And how kind of closely we're dancing to it or with it. So, but I will answer your question directly about how I actually got from that career to this one. I was a dancer since I was very, very young. I went professional at 8. And I moved from ballet to burlesque, or pseudo burlesque with the Pussycat Dolls, and became an actor. I spent many, many years doing that. And it was wonderful. It was a great expression for me. I have always been an artist. I've always been a creative, and I've always been a performer. I have always been called to the stage. So I felt very comfortable in it. I had a struggle with it all the way through. And my struggle was how to act with integrity in a career that has a tendency to not really highlight it, not celebrate it, and not really encourage it, frankly. And so I always felt a little bit out of sorts. So I knew while I was deep in it that I couldn't be there forever. I could feel this like big hole inside of me. So I definitely really struggled with that. So I just knew in the back of my mind that I would be veering into something else that felt a lot more meaningful. I was always trying to express meaning, find meaning, share meaning with the people around me. And it was sometimes matched and met, and sometimes, I was looked at like an alien. If we're talking specifically career from that to this, I had a lot of pitfalls in between. So I officially left acting when I was pregnant with my son. And I thought I would go back after about a year and a half. I wanted to spend the first year and a half with him, and was very surprised to discover that I had no interest in it whatsoever. Not because I had any interest in leaving my son. I wasn't surprised by that. I loved every minute of that. I was just surprised that it had lost its grip on me, because when you're in the entertainment business, or you are in fashion, so we know, I think as well as I do, how much we begin to weave our personal value in with the work that we are doing and the accolades we receive and externally. But it was really easy for me to decide not to go back. So the dolls and I parted ways in 2005, and I left the business in 2009, the entertainment business. We had already parted ways, so I had really separated from that part of my life as well. So it was an easy peeling back of the layer. Being a mom changed everything for me. I knew that I had a very sensitive child as soon as he arrived. He's a highly sensitive kid, which I consider a true gift. He has a vision, the gift of second sight, and he's just wide open. And so I knew I had to really hone in on him. So when I officially left the business and started exploring and creating, I went to what felt more familiar to me, instead of just being brave and bold and diving into what I wanted to do, which was healing work. And I stuck with design for a bit. I tried my hand at jewelry design and had a rather successful business for many, many years. So much so that we partnered with Sarah Jessica Parker on a launch that was a huge announcement and huge failure. But you learn so much from those, don't you? They're not fun in the moment, but it was a great teacher for me. I moved into menswear design. It was all about creating and helping. And what's so interesting about being in the design world versus where I am now is that I realize now that even then I was trying to heal people. I was trying to help them feel beautiful. I was trying to help them look good. I was trying to help them find their way of expressing their true nature, their true passions, their true desires. And I was doing it from the outside in. So without exposing too much, my relationship was not very healthy. It was an emotional vacuum, and I needed to get out. And in the getting out, I found my path and I found my truth, which is that I am that spiritual being having this human experience, and I have to honor that above and beyond. I spent all these years, there's so many holes in my story right now because there's so many years of and times and experiences that I haven't mentioned. I had a first marriage that was the typical domestic abuse scenario. I had a situation where I was, I was extremely wealthy very early, and I lost everything. I was a multimillionaire by 26, lost it all by 33. So I had all these other experiences that were like ripping your skin off. And I had to learn and learn and learn over and over and over again that it came back to me. It was my responsibility. It wasn't about these external forces and factors. It all came back to me. So when I had that realization, I had this incredible experience that I consider now a spiritual awakening, but I heard messages that told me to move into this work, and I knew it was a matter of life or death. That sounds super dramatic, but it's truly how it felt in the moment. So I know that it sounds really dramatic to talk about doing spiritual work or making even a career change as a matter of life and death, but I was literally dying on the vine, slowly and surely, over the course of many, many, many years. And so, and we know this, it's pretty easy to see from the outside looking in when someone starts with pretty much every every gift, I had everything going for me. I had all the odds stacked in my favor, from external to, well, really not internal, but financial, career. I had the house, I had the cars, I had the body, I had the talents, I had the opportunities, I had the jobs, I had all of it. And I lost all of it. And so that tells you that there is some real disease or toxicity happening from the inside out, working its way out. And it took me a really long time to get the message. And I finally got the message. And the message was, it falls on you. Nothing else outside of me matters. No part of my story, no matter how amazing or how challenging, mattered. It fell on me to either live or not, to thrive or suffer. We spend so much time surviving our way through life, and that's not the way it's meant to be. And I finally woke up and realized that. So when I realized that, I was in such a mess. I had lost all my money. I was in a relationship that was deeply unfulfilling. I left the first one, didn't do much better the second time, although our beautiful gift together was to create our son Atticus. But we ended our relationship. I had this big mess around me I had to pick up the pieces one by one. And I did it by, again, this is a terrible visual, but really just essentially ripping my skin off. I explored everything. I started with, and this is bizarre because it was one of the messages that came through to me, crystals. If you had told me 10 years prior, 5 years prior, 1 year prior, that I would be guided to work with crystals, I would have reintroduced myself to you because there was no way you knew who you were speaking to. But I got this message, go get these 7 crystals. And I did. And I started working with them. And my life changed. And I became certified as a crystal healer. Through that, I began working with energy. Through my work with energy, I began a deep practice of meditation or a practice of deep meditation. Through that, I began teaching. Through teaching, I was then guided to herbalism and the study of plant spirit medicine, and I became a medicine woman and a certified herbalist. I don't lead with any of this anymore, but I really like in my life, I explored spirituality the way I always had in my careers. I do one of everything. I've done kind of one of everything over the years. And I've had a lot of time to do it. I'm middle-aged. I've had plenty of time to explore. And interesting, I want to make a quick note about the exploration. I looked at it for so long as being fickle, as being flaky, as kind of not having my game together. But I now see it as experience. I've done everything. I'm a multi-hyphenate and I'm a multi-passionate. And I know a lot about a lot of different things. And each one has helped me whittle away to where I am today. And where I am today is that I work one-on-one with clients. The main thing we do is amplify energy. And we work on energy first and foremost because that informs, dictates everything that is happening in our lives, good and bad, big and small. So that's the first thing we do. But then I do a lot of work on the mental state and mental cycling. And of course, I'll pull in those other skill sets and tricks, whether it be herbs or my medicine woman skills, or occasionally crystals, but not really, but I will if necessary. But all of it comes from an instinct that I see myself in other people. And I think that's actually one of the reasons that I was meant to go on this wild journey, this rather painful journey, because nobody can sit in front of me that I can't relate to in some way, shape, or form. Their stories are not my own, but there is a piece of mine in theirs and vice versa. And all anybody really wants is to be recognized and seen and acknowledged. And I'm convinced that I went through the challenges and the difficulties so that I could be a better guide for those who bestowed the honor upon me of trusting me. So it's hard to wrap up your life like that. How did you get from there to here? I've actually never been asked that question in that way. Maybe that's obvious in how I answered it, but it's really hard to get there. It's a little bit of everything. I also grew up with a skin disease. So I was just compassionate from the get-go because I was on the receiving end of being judged and of people being disgusted by how I looked and not wanting to touch me. And so I knew that I wasn't what they thought of me. That was just what my body looked like. It wasn't my value. It wasn't who I was. I certainly internalized it, and it took me a long time to get there. But but I was a compassionate being, an empathetic being from, I just came out that way, but certainly having the experience of the skin disease honed in on that.
Incredible. I love how you talk about how all these different things that you were called to explore contribute to the whole that you bring to people now. But at the time, it kind of felt like you were all over the place. But now you see how that was all experience that you had to get. And also your spiritual awakening and these messages that you receive that sounds so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to ask you a bit more about that and what those felt like. And I know that you talk about the gift of intuition,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm wondering how that might be wrapped up into those spiritual messages that you received.
Well, 100%. We are all intuitive beings. It's really interesting, especially in this day and age where we're so driven by social media and everything that we see, and we see how people present themselves. It's very easy to just post the best picture or present the best light. We have a tendency to put so much weight and trust in these people who say they have second sight, or they're mediums or psychics or, intuitives. But the truth is, every human being is. Every single human being has the gift of intuition. It's just a matter of opening it. And before I really answer the question you asked me, I want to just expand on that a little bit, so that if anyone listening, or even for you, if this word it resonates for you, a lot of people have a tendency to think, well, no, they can tell me which way to go. They can read the cards and tell me, do I take that job? Do I move to that state? Do I marry that guy? Is he cheating on me? Or should I write this book? But those answers exist within all of us as spiritual beings having a human experience. We arrive here with the gift of intuition, and it comes through our bodies first. So think of a newborn who comes here with no language skills, no, understanding of language, no understanding of cause and effect. They only have their bodies to guide them and speak for them. That is intuition. That's second chakra, svadhisthana. That is where the physical intuition lives. That is our home of creativity and emotion and, everything that flows, sensuality and sexuality. But sensuality is the wisdom of the body, the physical intuition that says, this feels good, this doesn't feel good, this tastes good, I'm cold, I want to be touched. It's the body that informs. So we all have that gift, no matter what. So it's a matter of honing in on it, believing it, deciding that you do have it, and then working on it and trusting it. I've always been extremely intuitive. I saw things when I was a child that went away. I think I pushed it away. I'm not sure. When I discovered that I wasn't like everybody else, or they didn't see certain things that I saw, I did my best to kind of stomp it down, as preteens and angst-ridden teens have a tendency to do. But it came back to me a bit, but in a different way. I'm intuitively guided every single day. I will have a client sit in front of me, and I'll hear the word rose, or I'll just start thinking of rose, or rose will come to me. And I'll say, what's the significance of rose? And it's the grandmother who just passed away. I don't necessarily see the grandmother. I just get the feeling. I just know. And I believe that this gift exists for everybody. We just have to open ourselves to it. So in my day-to-day, really tune into that. It's one of the reasons that I have my deep meditation practice. I keep saying it like that, deep meditation practice, as opposed to practice of deep meditation. It's very strange to me that I'm going that direction, but it's really important to me, because what it does every day is open that channel, and I open to receive and to be divinely guided, because I want to keep this human experience of mine as closely connected to spirit as I can. Because when I'm connected to source energy, to, the divine, I'm at my absolute best. I believe we all are. We vibrate as high as possible when we allow ourselves to be in receiving mode, and to believe that we're on par with that. We feel very separate from, like, other people have answers. Even, religion tells us that you don't know, but the Bible will tell you, or God will tell you, but God lives within all of us. So the gift of intuition is not unique to me, doesn't make me special. It just means that I talk about it because I work with it a lot, and I'm excited to, and I'm thrilled. I love when I have an opportunity to teach a client how to open it, get in touch with it, and use it and listen to it. But all that guidance is in there. All those little hairs that stand up on the back of your neck, the sick feeling you get in your stomach when someone asks you to do something and you say yes, but your stomach isn't sitting right. It's because your intuition is saying no. We all get the messages.
Yes, I love that so much, Sia. And I love how you talk about how we look so easily to others for answers when we really have them in ourselves. And that's something I really learned when I did my coaching training and had my first coaching client, because I've always been a mentor and someone who people come to for advice. And that's been something I've loved always.
Hmm.
And I was always giving advice with the best intention I possibly could for the other person, based on my experiences and understanding. And my first coaching client, there was a situation where he was talking about needing to leave Berlin, where him and I were both living at that time, and really wanting to find himself and explore and being trapped in old patterns. And I was just entering my digital nomad life at that point. So that was my perspective. And so I as a friend, I would have encouraged him and said, you can do it. Berlin will always be here for you. You don't need to be scared. Let me help you.
Hmm.
But as a coach, instead, I asked him the open questions and enabled him to go into himself and listen to his messages. And he called me a few days later and said, "Thank you so much for that session. It was so powerful. It was amazing. I know exactly what I have to do." And I thought,
Mm.
amazing, great. He's gonna go digital nomad. And he said, "I realized I was running away from my ex. It's nothing to do with Berlin. And thank you for helping me see that." And I just thought, wow, that is the power of space, of giving people the space to find their own truth, because no person knows the truth of others. So you just reminded me of that
Amazing.
little story that really showed me the power of coaching. And ever since that experience in becoming a coach, the way I give advice, even to my friends or my sister or my husband, is completely changed based on that. And like you say, we all have the right answers for ourselves within us. We just don't necessarily know always how to tap into them. And our minds can be filling up all of the fear-led ideas and trying to change our path. But like you say, we've all had that feeling when we've done something and known
Hmm.
and had that sick feeling and known it was wrong.
Yeah, well done, by the way, on that client. You must have done him a great service, I imagine. And it's really hard to do that, by the way, because we're also so ego driven. And it's real active listening is very difficult, and guiding without motive is really difficult, just to be kind of pure and open in that way. But, the other thing that's interesting is that if we're subscribing to the belief, and we know in my case, because I've said it probably 3 times already about the spiritual being thing, what separates us from that spirit, from spiritual beingness, is free will, which means that we can screw it up if we so choose. That's entirely up to us, and it's well within our rights. We can also not. But because we have free will, it is not the divine, the energies of the divine or source or God, goddess, whatever you subscribe to and believe in, isn't meant to intervene unless we ask them. So there are, of course, the cases of miracles where people will talk about receiving the hand of God and pull them out of a fiery car accident or something. But we have to ask for help. We have to say, I'm ready. That's the purpose of prayer. That's the purpose of meditation. That's the purpose of outreach. And in our work as coaches, as guides, as beacons, it's not on me to tell someone what to do. It is not on me. I can't do that. I also have a belief that when we insert ourselves in other people's business, we agree to take on a bit of their karma, whichever way it goes. And I experienced that in the beginning of my spiritual journey of working with people. My boundaries were not where they needed to be. So as our own greatest healers, it's up to us to decide, okay, it's time, and I'm ready and I'm willing and I'll open to receive. I will listen. But we have to listen to the guidance from within, above and beyond, because it's where all the answers lie. And every meditation class I have taught over years, which have been thousands, I will say to people, because they're guided meditations and I channel them. I never plan them. They just come. And I'll speak for an hour straight sometimes. And I will tell people, listen to your own intuition above and beyond any prompt I send your way, anything I suggest. Always listen to that inner guidance, that compass. And you learn to trust it over time. With every time you honor it, every time you listen to it, you trust it a little bit more. For example, we've all had experiences where, we've thought to ourselves, we've gone outside on a sunny day and thought, I wonder if there's an umbrella in my car. Or just something totally random. That's an intuitive hit. Or we think of people and they call us, or we turn the corner and bump into them. This is all intuition. These are not coincidences, ever.
If you enjoy Going Conscious, please subscribe for a new episode every Wednesday. If you think your friends and networks would benefit from listening, please share this podcast of fulfillment and freedom with them. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review. It's great to read what you think, and your support makes a big difference. Together, let's grow our courage and tools to transform and live the lives we really want to. As well as creating Going Conscious, I work as a transformation coach and conscious brand consultant. I'm on a mission to help holistically maximize conscious entrepreneurs to drive positive changes for themselves, others, and the planet. I can help you to transition and level up personally, and I can help your brand grow and make a bigger impact. To connect with me and find out more about how we can work together, find me on Instagram @NikkiTrott or on my website nikkitrott.com. Please get in touch. I'd love to hear from you, and let's talk about your path of growth and development.
There's no such thing as coincidence, if you ask me. So intuition is just incredibly powerful. It's a beautiful guide. It's the only guide as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, I love that. I've been thinking about intuition so much recently, and I work on it a lot with my clients as well. And there was something I was thinking about recently where I was wondering, and I'm interested what your belief might be around this. Do you believe that intuition also comes from the experiences of our ancestors as well?
Yes. And the reason for that, well, my reason for thinking that is that, a lot of people think of their ancestors as being outside of us, but they live within us as well. Their DNA runs through us, it lives inside of us. So we are our ancestors to an extent. So absolutely.
Yes.
And I think that's why, I'm sure as a digital nomad, you've had this experience at some point, somewhere along the way, perhaps where something felt familiar, like you've been here before, or you felt called to a certain place. It's because an aspect of that place is the memory lives inside of you. I've never been to Australia. I've been all over the world. I've never been to Australia. And yet you could show me a picture of a garden and that's it. No other markers. And I will know it's Australia because I know the light. I have no reason to know the light, but I know the light. The conversation about ancestors is also interesting if and when one works with them. And this I learned through my plant spirit medicine work and work as a medicine woman, which again is not something I choose not to lead with anymore. Just because someone is related to us doesn't mean that they have our highest good in mind. So it's always important to, again, listen to the intuition, to, set sacred space and to make sure that we are kind of connecting to only divine energies or the divine beings of the highest light and love.
And how do you do that? How do you go about setting that sacred space?
I have a lot of different routines and rituals. I shouldn't say routines so much as rituals when I'm working with clients. But there are a number of things you can do, and it depends on how deep you want to go. For you, I don't know if you're working one-on-one with anybody at this time, but I recommend for anyone who sits in physical presence with someone else and is doing healing work of any kind, I think sandalwood oil is an absolute must. And there's some people that feel it's kind of hokey and silly and brush it off, but sandalwood oil is very, very protective. And I use it mainly because I'm working with energy and because I'm actually not seeing clients one-on-one right now, but when I was, because we're working with divine energy and because I will channel sometimes, that means that spirit can come in. Sandalwood oil protects what we know and call bone gate. This sounds, again, so dramatic, but bone gate lives at the back of the neck from C1 all the way up to the hairline. And it's where energy can attach to us. It's kind of like, like I mentioned earlier, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. There's a reason. It's how energy attaches to us. It's how it enters us, really. And so I always protect it with sandalwood oil. Australian sandalwood oil was what I was taught. I always do breathing exercises. I do my prayers. I set my aura. I do aura work. It's a beautiful, beautiful practice that I think is good for anybody, whether you're doing energy work, whether you're doing healing work, or whether or not you're just walking into a room filled with people and you don't want their energy moving into your space. Or about to do something that scares you, like speak to a room of 500 people for the first time, or a practice is beautiful. But meditation is simple enough too, or just a simple intention. I'm setting sacred space. I only welcome divine beings with the highest light and love into my space right now. That's the other thing that's interesting, by the way, that just made me think of something. We, again, with this tendency for us to look outside of ourselves and put so much weight on everything out there, we do that with spirit also. And we assume that it lives on a higher level than us. And in a way it does. I might contradict myself here. I'm going to try to say it in a way that makes sense. In a way it does vibrationally. But it is well within our rights to be like, go away, leave me alone right now. I'm not into it. We're allowed to kind of dictate how we work with spirit, how we relate to spirituality and divine beings and energy. And we have more power than we think.
Yes.
We're wildly powerful. And people forget. They think like, is it okay for me to jump in? Like the people on, the Clubhouse platform, for example, who are so afraid to just speak, because someone else might have to speak first, or what if it doesn't work, or, just be powerful, get up there. This is what I think. This is what I want. I don't want to be interrupted right now, spirit. I'm tired. Come back in an hour.
Yes.
There's a lot of ways to play with it.
Is that also because in the end it is us? Because we are all the same?
I believe so. I think, we're obviously all incredibly different and unique. And yet at our cores, it's all energy.
Yes.
But we're all here for different things. We're all here for different reasons and to learn different ways of being human. This is, of course, my opinion. This is how I look at the world, and it's how I relate to people. You can do what I do or get where I am or find, mental health or peace in your heart without having to go through all the garbage I went through. I wasted a lot of time. Wasted's not the right word, but I spent a lot of time figuring it out. I spent a lot of money figuring it out, and I suffered so much. That's my story. The next person could have her, life together at 20. And God bless her. That's her story.
Mm.
And interestingly, because we again have that tendency to look toward and to look to, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have teachers or guides or lean on other people. And I'm a firm believer in always being a student, always staying open to learning. It's how we grow. But looking for validation outside of us is where we have the problem. But because of what I've been doing, I constantly have to stay in the work of keeping my ego where it belongs. There was a woman that is doing some work that I thought was really interesting, but I didn't buy into it because she's so much younger than I am. I think she's 30 and I'm in my late 40s. I just had a birthday 2 days ago. So I thought, well, what does she know that I don't know? I didn't have that conscious thought. I just was kind of resistant. I was like, oh, well, she's doing interesting work. But I didn't buy a course. I didn't take a class. I didn't give it much credence, but I was definitely like, oh, I like what she's doing. And then something happened this fall and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take that workshop. And I was open to it. And I took a workshop. And she, again, is so much younger than I am. And I cannot tell you how much I learned from her. It was absolutely remarkable. I absolutely put her on the list of teachers. I have such admiration for her. I love what she's doing. She's a wealth of just beauty and spirit and wisdom. And it was just such a great wake-up call for me. How did I get there? I have no idea how I just got to that. But our stories being so different. Her story allowed her to move into this very powerful place where she is affecting change, inspiring people, helping people, lifting them up, raising the vibration of the planet, whether it's in her immediate circle or in the entire city or across the world with her work, because that's her story.
Mm.
So we cannot compare. Comparison is the thief of joy. It is a killer of creativity.
Yes, and a killer of abundance as
A
well.
killer of abundance.
Comparison,
Mm-hmm.
so dangerous.
It is. It is.
Yes.
It's truly awful. And it's a little bit like spitting in the face of source energy, because you're made the way you're made for a reason. It's like saying, yeah, no thanks. I don't want that gift.
Yes.
You would never do that, so why compare?
Yeah.
I like to reframe the comparison, say instead, don't compare, instead create. So whatever you're looking to over there that inspires you or maybe makes you feel a little bit envious. Envy is just revealing a deficit that we have, just like we talked about this yesterday, I think, in that room. It just reveals a deficit, and a perceived deficit. And anytime anything is revealed like that, it's on us to look at it and say, okay, well, what does that mean? It means I want that joy. I want that happiness. I want that car. I want that success. Okay, so what can you do to get it? Don't compare, create.
Yes, I love that. Absolutely. Can you describe what is your energy work that you do for people who might not be familiar with what that might mean?
I think mine is unique. I really hesitate to use the word energy healer because of my belief that we're all our own greatest healers. I can't heal anybody who doesn't ask for help, who isn't willing to heal themselves. It takes hard work to heal, and you have to be open to receive. So I hesitate to use that. A lot of people talk about energy work as energy healing. But for me, what my energy work looks like, I think is maybe different than what may be typical, because I'm also working with intuition and my medicine woman energies. And what I do with people when I'm seeing my clients one-on-one or in Zoom is we sit together and I take a moment, we set sacred space. I set sacred space on their behalf. We do some breathing. We do some, grounding to kind of just get comfortable in the space. These are both really important practices. In my opinion, if everybody did it, we'd be living in a very different world. I think it's magical practice, this grounding and breath work. But I will just sit and look at them for a moment. And as I do, I will just start to get messages and I'll get feelings, and I can feel them before they even arrive. I just know what is something that's coming, even if I've never met them. So that I can't explain. I don't know. It's just part of how my gift of intuition arrives. But when I'm sitting with them, I can almost see where their energetic blockages are. So I can feel pain in the heart, or I can feel a blockage in the womb space. And a lot of people who suffer from, sexual trauma, for example, will hold a blockage in the womb space, which is that second chakra I mentioned a little while ago when we were speaking about intuition, physical intuition. So for me, that's just how it presents. I can see or feel where their energy is flowing and or blocked. And I just can't really explain it. It's so hard to explain. When I'm able to say I feel tension at the heart space, I can feel you gripping, then it will open the conversation, because as soon as they've been recognized, then it's kind of like a flood. How can you see me like that? And then we're able to kind of work through it and treat it with tender gloves and find ways to reframe what is happening. There's lots of work you can do energetically, like the Ho'oponopono practice. Do you know this?
I don't know.
Oh, it's so gorgeous. You will certainly hear about it along the way as you walk through your journey. It's called Ho'oponopono, and it's an ancient Hawaiian practice of cord cutting, really. And it's all about forgiveness. And it's not about the other person. It's about us and how we hold on to these energies. Any resentment is just an energetic cord. Any anger is an energetic cord. Our attachments to memories and stories and how they played out are all energetic cords. Even, like I lost all my money. How do you lose millions of dollars? Like, you really have to screw up to do that, like really badly. And I did it. And so you can imagine how mad I was at myself when I went from, walking into any car dealer and paying cash for whatever luxury car I wanted in my 20s to having to choose between diapers and wipes when my son was a year. I mean, that was pretty traumatic. So I was pretty pissed at myself. So I held on to that for years, and it kept me down. It kept me cycling. It kept me repeating stories because I had this belief that I wasn't worthy because of the mistake I made. So in my case, I was holding on, I was corded to an old version of myself. So this Ho'oponopono practice, what it does is help cut those cords and ask for forgiveness. And so when we do that, the visualization of cord cutting, and it's done in sacred space, it's done in prayer. There's a beautiful meditation before to kind of help you move into readiness to become ready to do this. You say in the mind's eye or aloud, if you feel like it, these beautiful phrases, and they are, gosh, I just hope I'm not going to say them out of order right now. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And now the person on the receiving end doesn't know this, that this is happening, that you are asking for forgiveness or saying, I love you, or saying, I'm sorry. Whether or not you've harmed them isn't the point. It's that there's a cord and you were letting go. So they won't know about it intellectually, they won't be aware of it unless, of course, you tell them about it, but you will certainly feel it energetically.
Yes.
I did this recently with my son's father, with whom I have a challenging relationship, sadly. And I did it recently with him, and there's been a change. There will always be a change. And I did it recently with myself, different versions of myself. It's a beautiful practice. So I walk a lot of clients through that.
Amazing. I have come across that. I just didn't know the name, but it's amazingly powerful. And forgiving ourselves is always the hardest one, isn't it? The hard standards that we hold against ourselves, which maybe we would forgive others for, things that we still hold on to within ourselves. I love that. Thank you for describing it. I think it's something that we can all do for ourselves.
I did it for the little girl who had such a terrible skin disease. Not that it was her fault, but I needed to do it because I was still tied to her. And I did it for the angst-ridden teenager that made some really bad decisions living in New York City. And I did it for the woman in her 20s who thought that, being an actress and wild and doing this and doing that and spending money and, was the right way to live. I knew damn well that was not for me. So I had to heal that relationship, and so on and so forth. We can do it. I could go on and on. Interestingly, about the skin, though, and energy, and this is what I love so much about this work, I had been tied to this story of having the skin disease that miraculously went away when I was 12. It came back as an adult when I was going through my divorce, which tells you a lot about the mind-body connection. But I was always obsessed with skin. I was always worried about my skin. I was always I just had this weird relationship with it because it was so much a part of my story. I decided one day, I don't know where this came from. It must have been a download, but I woke up one day and I was like, I'm just going to love my skin. I'm just going to love it. That's what I'm going to do moving forward. And I just started saying, I love my skin. I'm so grateful for my beautiful skin. I love my beautiful, soft, smooth, dewy skin, which, by the way, I had never had. And now I happen to have really beautiful skin. It's taken years, but it worked. It worked. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing, Cyia. Wow. But as we're coming towards the end of our discussion today, there's so many more things I could ask you, but I'll ask you a couple more questions now. And one of them is, as you've moved from the entertainment industry to where you are today with your energy work, what does success mean to you now? And how has that changed?
I love that question. Success means to me honoring my truth. It means that I do not ever, under any circumstances, betray myself, my spirit, my soul, my intuition. Success means that I follow my lead, and it's holistic to me now. So for me to feel success means that I am honoring my truth in every category. I am expressing myself in every category. It's not necessarily monetary, and it's certainly not tied to how other people view success. It's, do I have joy in my life? Am I acting in integrity? Am I proud of the choices I'm making? Am I raising my son well? Am I taking care of the people I love? Am I taking care of my body and myself emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, energetically? So it's really holistic for me now. So there is no one pure, perfect picture of success. I mean, yes, money is an energy also, by the way. So it is a factor. Am I comfortable? Am I safe again? Am I able to enjoy again? Yes. So success definitely looks very different. It has changed because it used to be all those things I had and lost. And I guess I needed to lose them in order to understand that they are not a marker. So that's been a big change for me. I don't care anymore about those markers that our society is so quick to admire. I don't care about high ticket sales. I don't care about how many copies of your book you've sold. I don't care about the car that you drive or the house you live in or the size of your, you know what, like, I don't care about any of that. What I care about is, are you kind? Are you compassionate? Are you humble? Are you real? Are you honest? Do you have integrity? Are you really working and to heal one person, even one person? It works in it's like a pebble, these concentric waves that spread out from the splash. So helping healing one person is a success because they'll go on to do the same.
That's beautiful. I love that. I completely agree. I feel that now I will not compromise my values for anything. And that is success, because when I had the old school success, my version of it, different to yours, but my version of that, I was compromising my values, and there's nothing about that that can be seen as success once you start to listen to your intuition and connect with yourself and understand that you have a path in life which contributes to something so much greater than yourself. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a complete shift in being.
Complete shift. Having said that, part of my journey was to turn away from all of that. I wore white 6 days a week for years. When I moved into this spiritual work, I went from one end of the spectrum to the other. And I guess I have a tendency to be dramatic. So I have balanced out, and I do wear white when I
Yeah.
lead my meditations, and when I sit with my clients, but that's it. When I moved into it and I turned away from all of that, I didn't wear makeup. I didn't care about my clothes. I didn't do this or that. I drove a Prius, I just got rid of the Range Rover and bought a Prius instead, and blah, blah, blah. I have since balanced out. This is the world we live in. And the more the more success we have by other people's definition, the more they'll listen. So there's a balance. The more they'll pay attention to you. There is a balance. And I think being spiritual doesn't mean that we can't also enjoy the typical, maybe less meaningful versions of success as well. And it all comes back to integrity, and it all comes back to soul truth, and it all comes back to honoring who we are. Some people aren't as deep, and that's okay. They do other things that they're great at, and it's really okay. But for those of us who do have this spiritual lean or the consciousness, I think it's really important to be willing to integrate all of it, because this is the world we live in.
Yes, I agree with you so much. I experienced the same thing. I think it can be like a pendulum that swings,
Mm-hmm.
and you leave this one side and you're so relieved and you're shaking everything off and you're diving in and pushing boundaries and exploring, expanding. And then you kind of settle into a place that you can really grow from, that brings things together more, like you say, that connects with the world that we are part of at the same time as staying with our truth. So I really resonate with that.
Yeah.
And I would like to ask you, Cyia, if there's a book that you would like to recommend to us, which has had a good impact on you, or something you read recently.
I hope it's not too cliche. I have a few. And the first one is Conversations with God, which I read years ago. And I will always keep a copy of. I love that. The Alchemist, of course, I love. The Four Agreements, I love. There's a novel for some reason that came to mind. And this is very strange and a stretch, but I'm going to, maybe not a stretch, but I'm going to mention it because it did come to mind as soon as I saw that inquiry, the email. And it's called The Soldier of the Great War. and I believe it's by Mark Halperin, maybe. I read it years ago. It's actually a slow burn. It's a little bit hard to get into, but it's this beautiful story of resilience and relationship. And I just loved it so much. It was a beautiful teacher for me. That I was going through a divorce at the time, or getting ready to go through a divorce at the time. And it was such an inspiration for me to know that, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, one breath after another, and just keep trudging and keep going, and you will get to the summit. You will find the light. You will get to the front door, whatever it is for you. It's a really cool book, The Soldier of the Great War, but you must be patient through the first 30 pages. I think I remember it being quite slow. But then it gets good. Yeah, it gets
Thank
good.
you so much. Yeah, thank you for all of them. Amazing. And where can listeners find you online, Cyia?
I'm most active on Instagram. I'm not very good at it, but I'm doing my best to get better and be active. But, you can find a lot of my work there. I really care about the content in my posts. And I'm not afraid to play with the algorithm. There are pictures of me in bikinis there, but there's also some important words maybe typed out underneath it. There's a reason for all of them. So I like that because it speaks to my values. My words that are on the posts really speak to what I care about. So that's a fun place to find me. You can also find me on my website, CyiaBatten.com. I've just been talked into TikTok, but who knows how that's going to go. I don't know. But that's it. I would go with my website or Instagram.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you for spending this time with me. I've loved our conversation. Thank you so much, Cyia.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed this episode with Cyia. I love how Cyia describes how we are all spiritual beings experiencing life, and how her spirituality was always there for her. She just didn't know what to do with it in the past as she moved through her incredible experiences. I believe that when we allow our spirituality to guide our lives, including our businesses and our relationships, only then can we experience an integrated, holistic life that is true to ourselves and our path of purpose. Cyia also talks about how she experienced toxic relationships and situations in her life, and came to understand that everything fell on her. She discovered the power of her mindset and how she can use it to shift her reality. And the inspiring acceptance of understanding that she needed to lose everything to understand this and come into her own power, so she can bring her gifts to the world and help others to heal too. And I completely agree with what Cyia said about how every human has the gift of intuition, and it's up to us, each of us, to practice and nurture it. Most of us have shut off our sense of intuition for so long, and shut off our instincts and deep knowledge as well. But we have the opportunity to open up to these gifts and to practice them. So how are you connecting with your intuition? This is something I'm personally working on a lot in my life. And if you haven't already done so, do check out episode 18 of Going Conscious, which is a special 10-minute guided meditation to help you connect with your intuition more deeply. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe now. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star rating and short review. If you think people you know might benefit from listening to Going Conscious, please share it with them. I know I get much of my inspiration from podcasts which are shared with me. For all episodes, our library and more, visit goingconscious.com. Your support to spread this positive message of fulfillment and freedom means so much. As well as hosting Going Conscious, I help conscious entrepreneurs to transition and unleash their power and purpose with my transformation coaching and conscious brand consulting work. Discover more on Instagram @NikkiTrott or on my website, nikkitrott.com. I'd love to hear from you and to talk about your goals, questions, or how we can work together. And if I don't hear from you before then, see you next Wednesday on the next episode of Going Conscious. As always, live your freedom.